DeepSeek V4 Pro costs 57 times less than Fable 5. That's 0.87 per million output tokens versus 50 or worse. Same token count, completely different bill, and Fable 5 is still in the conversation, which honestly should make you stop and ask what you're actually paying for. I'm putting these two head to head right now because the price gap is too big to ignore in 2026, and I want to run through 5 real tests pulling from verified sources only. No vendor spin, no cherry-picked numbers. And if you're running high-volume production workloads, the model you pick today could cost you tens of thousands of dollars more per month, and the cheaper one might actually keep up on the benchmarks that matter most. So who's this for? Honestly, anyone routing serious token volume through an API, anyone building agents, or anyone who just wants to know if Fable 5's premium price buys you something real. Because this is really about where your money goes and whether you're overpaying for capability you don't need. Test 1. Reasoning, speed, and latency. When a model is slow, you feel it. Your agent stalls, your user waits, and if you're chaining multiple calls together, that lag compounds fast. And Fable 5 has been flagged for hitting 109 seconds, time to first token at max effort, which is genuinely painful in any real workflow. The numbers here are pretty straightforward. DeepSeek V4 Pro clocks in at 73.2 tokens per second on raw output speed, and Fable 5 sits at 63.4 tokens per second, about a 15% gap. These come from different test setups, so take the exact delta with a grain of salt, but the direction is clear. DeepSeek V4 Pro takes this one. I was expecting the gap to be smaller, honestly, but 73.2 versus 63.4 tokens per second is a consistent edge, and Fable 5's extreme TTFT at max effort makes it worse in practice. That puts DeepSeek V4 Pro up 1-0 on the scoreboard. Test 2. Cost and pricing. Run 1 million output tokens through Fable 5 and you're out $50. Do the same through DeepSeek V4 Pro and it's 87 cents. And if your app generates even a modest volume of responses daily, that difference doesn't just add up, it explodes. So this is the test where the stakes are most concrete. The published pricing isn't close at all. Fable 5 runs $50 per million output tokens. DeepSeek V4 Pro is 0.87 per million via OpenRouter, and that's a 57x difference. Fable 5 does have prompt caching and batch pricing that can soften the blow a little, but nowhere near enough to close that gap. DeepSeek V4 Pro wins this, and it's not even a contest. I knew the gap was big going in, but 57 times cheaper is the kind of number that changes how you architect a whole product, and that's 2 for DeepSeek V4 Pro, 0 for Fable 5, with 3 tests still to go. Test 3. Coding and math accuracy. A model that gets math wrong in your pipeline doesn't just produce a bad answer, it can silently corrupt downstream logic in ways that are really hard to catch, so this one matters a lot, especially if you're running agentic coding tasks or anything involving numerical reasoning at scale. What surprised me is how close the agentic coding scores actually are. Fable 5 hits 80.3% on SWE Bench Pro, and DeepSeek V4 Pro lands at 80.6% on SWE Verified. And on math, Fable 5 scores 99.8% on USAMO 2026, while DeepSeek V4 Pro hits 92.6% on GSM-8K. But those are different benchmarks at very different difficulty levels, so a direct comparison honestly isn't possible. The hard truth is, these scores aren't apples to apples. SWE Bench Pro and SWE Verified are different tests, and USAMO versus GSM-8K is a completely different difficulty tier, so the gap you see on screen is kind of misleading. And calling a winner would mean pretending the benchmarks are comparable when they really aren't. This one's a tie. I was expecting Fable 5 to pull ahead clearly on math, and that 99.8% USAMO score is genuinely impressive. But without a shared benchmark, I can't hand it the win. So the scoreboard stays at DeepSeek V4 Pro 2, Fable 5 0, with 1 tied. Test 4. Context window and document handling. If your model hits its output limit mid-generation, you get a truncated response and a broken workflow, which is a real failure state, so how much a model can actually output in one shot, and how well it retrieves from a long context, really matters here. Both models carry a 1 million token context window, so that's a draw on input. But on output, DeepSeek V4 Pro goes up to 384,000 tokens versus Fable 5's 128,000, which is 3 times more output in a single call, and DeepSeek V4 Pro scores 83.5 on MRCR 1M for long context retrieval, while Fable 5 has no published number there. DeepSeek V4 Pro takes this one clearly. I was expecting the context window to be basically a wash since both hit 1M tokens. But the output gap is way bigger than I thought, and 3 times the max output is a real operational difference. So that's DeepSeek V4 Pro 3. Fable 5.0, one-tied. Test 5, API availability and integration. If you're locked into a single provider and they go down, raise prices, or change their rate limits, your whole product is stuck. And that's the kind of risk that doesn't show up in a benchmark score until it's already causing you problems. The flexibility difference here is pretty stark. Fable 5 runs on Anthropic's proprietary API with a subscription plus pay-per-token model, and usage credits add friction. But DeepSeek V4 Pro is open weight under MIT license, so you can self-host it. Run it through OpenRouter, Deep Infra, or any OpenAI-compatible provider, which is a genuinely different level of control. DeepSeek V4 Pro wins this one too. I expected Fable 5's cloud integrations to make this closer, but the open-weight flexibility of DeepSeek V4 Pro is a totally different category of control, and that wraps the scoreboard at DeepSeek V4 Pro 4, Fable 5.0 with one tie. Alright, so where is Fable 5 genuinely better? It scored 99.8% on USAMO 2026 and actually helped disprove the Jacobian conjecture, which is elite-level math reasoning. Its agentic coding score of 80.3% on SWE Bench Pro leads among Anthropic models, and its 1M token context window handles up to 600 pages with no long context price premium. Now, where DeepSeek V4 Pro wins clearly, it's 57 times cheaper per output token, 0.87 versus $50. It's faster at 73.2 tokens per second. It can output up to 384,000 tokens in a single call, which is 3 times what Fable 5 allows, and you can self-host it or run it through any provider you want with no lock-in. Okay, so going in, I figured Fable 5 would hold its own on more tests, but 4-0 is hard to argue with, so here's the decision rule. If you need research-grade math reasoning, like hard USAMO level proofs, go Fable 5, but for everything else, DeepSeek V4 Pro, because 57 times cheaper is the kind of number that wins the argument.